Okay guys, it's time to move on to do the legs. I'm kind of excited about the legs just to see how it comes together. First thing you have to realize about the legs is that we're going to do it in more than two pieces, and you'll see as I move on what I mean. When you're measuring it out, just keep in mind that I created a little extra piece here to go into the body. We're going to have to strip away some of this, and you may even have to cut a little bit of the shell away. So we might have to cut a little bit of the side of the shell away. It may be a little bit tough with the tools we have in class, but I'm sure you guys can pull it off. Also, I've added that little bit. We may have to cut that or add to it. This is the first time that I'm doing it, so you know, we're gonna play it by ear. But I'm gonna show you, I want the bottom to be very stable. So we're going to definitely do it in a few pieces. Like I need two of these pieces, so I can put one here and one here. Yeah, and then we'll work our way around that just to make sure that it has enough strength to actually hold the weight of it. Some of you guys that are like really heavy, you may have to reinforce it, maybe with a pencil, like shove a pencil through it on both sides. But hopefully it's strong enough to stand. So you only need to draw one of these, because if your legs are presumably the same, you just, when it's time to cut out the cardboard, you just use the same stencil twice. And that's actually what I'm gonna do next. So I'm gonna cut these out, and then I'm gonna put it on the cardboard, and then I'm gonna start cutting out my stencils. I'm gonna take two parts of the bottom here, and I'll explain in just a second what I mean by that. Before I cut this, I want to tell you how I got these measurements. So first, the length of the leg is from here to here, and this is all extra, which I may have to remove or add, I'm not sure. But I took the length of the eye, because when I looked at the pictures, it more or less was about the length from here to here. So I took that length and I used that to make my leg. So right from here to here is the length of the leg. Like I said, this is extra. I also used that as a base for my width right here, and you can see that is that line. So you know that the bottom should be a bit wider than that. Let me see if I used anything specific. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to take both eyes and just make that the length of your shoe. It's important that the shoes are big here, because they're going to support, you know, the whole structure, and we want it to stand up properly. As far as this width, if I'm not mistaken, let me take a look. Yeah, that width is about the same width as one eye. Okay, with your two stencils, you should make enough for both legs. So you see everything is double. I actually added an extra one of these parts here. And I also added a little half circle to it, because that's supposed to be the round part of the shoe, and it's going to combine sideways here, and you'll see what that looks like in just a second. Alright, here's how we're going to cut this. First, we're going to cut this one right here. These two stay the same. We're not going to cut those two. Then we're going to start cutting down the middle. I'm going to cut this one down the middle. We want these to more or less be the same, so you use this one to overlap that one. And we're going to cut that one down the middle. We're going to cut this one down the middle. Again, you want these to be the same. And we're going to cut that one down the middle. And lastly, we're going to cut this one down the middle. Okay, now it's time to start using the hot glue gun, and we're going to put these pieces on. I'll show you how you're going to do that in just a second. So I've assembled the first leg off camera, and yeah, I did it with a Cheerios box, and it ends up looking something like this. So these are the pieces you need, and this piece goes here, the other piece on the other side, or imagine it like this. This piece goes here. Try to get it in the center, and then the piece that goes right below that is going to be this one. So now you can see that this little half circle is actually supposed to go in line with this half circle. So when you do that little loop, it should give you the little loop there. And it's okay if those overlap. Right? So if they overlap a little bit, that's absolutely fine. Try to line them up. And do the same thing on the other side. This extra piece is going to go in the front, somewhere in the middle here. Right? See where it is here? Right here. So then when we build the shoe, you have plenty of support, and then it also has more support when it's holding up the weight of the rest of the little statue. Okay, so again, these two pieces go here and here. Right below that, we're going to do this one with the half circle, this one with the half circle, and then in front of that, we're going to do this one. Alright, I'm going to take care of the other one off camera, and I'll show you that right before we start the paper grading process. It already stands up. It's a bit wobbly, but we can always fix that one way or another by either taking some off or adding a bit of extra paper at the bottom. But it's a good sign that it's already standing. Okay, so I'm beginning to add the paper around the edge, and I've actually decided to take off the half circle that I had originally added. So this little half circle, we're going to take it off. The reason being, it's just going to make it easier. Later on, we're going to take a regular sheet of copy paper or line paper, and we're going to crumple it up, and we're going to attach it from here all the way to the back here. But right now, this is getting in the way. So once we're done with our gridding here, we're going to take that paper, we're going to attach it, and that's going to provide the rim for the shoe. So take that piece, that little half circle, off, or don't make it at all. Hopefully watch this video all the way through before you start. I'll be sure to remind you in class. Okay, after carefully thinking it over, these little things were a bad idea. So the little extra pieces that I had originally placed here, and this little extra thing, just take those off. I'm using a razor blade to do it, but just don't put them on in the first place. The reason being that is just a lot easier to do with a little sheet of paper that we can take and roll up and put around. So we don't have to do that now. And I wish I would have thought it sooner. I thought about that sooner, but I didn't. So okay, so don't put that on again. At the end, we're just gonna take a piece of regular copy paper, we're gonna roll it up, and that's how we're gonna get our little edge there. Okay guys, so by now you know the drill. So the next step just requires starting the grid. I've already put this paper on. This one I haven't done it to, so you can see the difference. And the next step for me is going to be just to start gridding this in such a way to start covering it. After that, I'm going to stuff it with paper towels. That's what I've been using for mine. And then I'm going to cover it in tape. I'm going to cover it in tape, and then I'm going to add the little extra edge for the boot, because I think it's easier to do it after. And I've removed my little round half circle from all of them, or from both of them, because I think that's just going to make it a lot easier. I'll try to remember to tell you before class starts to not do that or ignore that part of the video. And I'll see you when this is all gridded up. Here we are at a stage where it looks almost done. Since this is smaller, it doesn't take that much longer. But if you have some gaps that are still a bit too big, what I would recommend is just doing some diagonal. So I think I may put one right there. I'm gonna leave the bottom open so I can still stuff the paper in there comfortably, but I don't want it escaping through the top, so I'm just looking for the big gaps. So this is like a big gap, so I may just put one there, maybe one there. The back is fine. Over here, I'm just gonna put some across like this. For some, like if the paper doesn't bend like in a perfect square, so you can see this one started here and it kind of bent back into a diagonal, just let it do that. Like, don't try to force it to do something else. Let it do what it wants to do for the most part, at least at this step. There will be times later, like when it comes time to put the feet in, where we are definitely gonna have to force this in there and maybe even remove some of the material that we've already placed in there, just so it has a very firm setting in there and it doesn't come out. So I'm gonna put those, and I'll quickly show you that, and then I'll start stuffing it with paper. Okay, so this foot is done. You can see definitely no paper is getting out of there, so it's very well gridded. And I'm going to start stuffing paper in through the bottom, which I left these large holes. When I come back, you'll see this full of paper, and then after that I'm just gonna cover it with tape. Okay, so I have one foot done. It was a bit tricky getting the paper in there. The first thing you should do is leave enough space at the bottom so where you could get paper in, and then you have to roll the paper thinly, squish it to the skinnier ends here, and then just force it down. And actually I had covered up these holes before, so I had to open them back up. But now I'm going to cover this one with tape. I'm going to do the same thing to the other foot, and then we're going to add that little rim around to make the boot, and then we'll see about actually putting them in. So the next step is to put tape on it, and then I will add the little rim around the boots. So I've taken a piece of paper, napkin, and I rolled it up. I'm sure regular paper will work, it's just what I had on hand. And now I'm going to actually cut this, and I'm just going to wrap it around here. Actually going to cut it right there again. and then I'm gonna glue that on right there, and that's gonna create kind of the edge of the boot. And that's how we're gonna do that. Okay guys, my feet are done and I think they look great. Now it's time to put them on, and I'm not sure how we're gonna do this in class. See, I have these scissors, and what we have to do is we have to get in here and we have to open up a space. Okay, don't be afraid about cutting what you've created. You're just gonna cover that back up, and the reason we made them so pointy is because we want to jam that in there so it holds really firm, right up about to where it starts turning right here. And I should probably compare it to, yeah, before I actually start putting it in there, I'm going to compare it to the measurements that I took initially to see how high we should go. But as far as this, you can't be afraid to break this. It's just necessary. And worst case scenario, any damage can be repaired. So you do have to get into it, and we're going to take out some of the paper that we had put in there. It would have been great to do this before. One second. It would have been great to do this before, but you know, hindsight is 2020. But it's also important to know that you can't be afraid to get into things or break something if it's necessary for the project. So with a simple pair of scissors, cut away at the stronger strips that are holding it and get into the paper or your stuffing, and you could actually start to either push that aside. Actually, yeah, I think pushing it aside is a better option than removing it. That way it still stays nice and firm, and just make a big hole. And then our foot is gonna go right in there. You want to make sure it goes in straight. Of course, I'm gonna glue it, and then I'm gonna cover up these excess holes. So but I'm liking that fit right there. And when you do put it in, you want to make sure that it's as straight as possible so it can actually stand. So I'm just trying to kind of straighten it out. And yeah, this part is going to be a bit messy, but sometimes it gets messy, you know. And I think that's a good length. I'm going to try to do what I can here. So I'm just going to try to find a good length. My camera's falling, so I got to stop. I'll be back in a sec. Alright, I picked up the camera. Now before you glue anything down, you want to open up both holes and kind of get a feel for it. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to open up this end and try to put the other one in there and see how they fit together and if I have to make any changes. So I'm going to do that off camera and I'll be back. By the way, yeah, don't be afraid if it kind of looks like that. If we really had to, we could fix it, but it's got to have feet, you know. Okay, so I've opened up both of the leg holes. There's gonna have to be some like cosmetic work done here just to clean this up with it might be strips of paper of the poster board, or it might just be tape, but we are gonna have to do a bit of cleaning up. I checked it to see if it stands, and it does. It's hard to see on camera since I'm filming sideways. He does have a little tilt to his body, but it's only to be expected. I mean, with this turtle shell. I think it looks pretty good. It kind of looks like he's looking down. You'll see it better in class. But the way that the eyes are positioned, he looks like he's kind of looking up at you. If I were you guys, I might try to get it to stand up a little bit straighter. Yeah, I think as a matter of fact, I'm gonna try to get it to stand up a little bit straighter. And in order to do that, I have to get into the shell a little bit, because this bit of the shell is preventing it from straining it. So I'm actually going to try to take off or push back a little bit of that to see if it stands up straighter. Now this is tough, I'm not going to lie. I'm gonna try to do it with a pair of scissors first. So just try to, you know, peck away at it with scissors until it opens up. But this is paper is actually really tough, guys, and it won't, you know, it's tough. It's a tough material once it's bundled up, especially. So try to push this back as much as you can. Worst case scenario, I have an X-Acto knife in the room. Just come up to me, and I'll cut off this edge right here. Maybe I'll take a blade to class, but only me. And we'll just cut into it a little bit. I like this. Even the blade is having a hard time, and this is a pretty sharp blade. So you can see how tough this really is. Once it's all said and done, it should definitely withstand the test of time. And once that's cut, it's not really making a difference. So let me see, maybe I can push. Okay, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, it is coming back a bit. So I think that did something. Does it stand up straighter? A little bit straighter. Does it make a big difference? Not enough. So let's not even worry about that. I mean, if it's way hunched over, then we'll have to take some drastic measures. But the next step for me now is I'm gonna put a lot of hot glue here at the end, and I'm just gonna stick this sucker in there, and then I'm gonna do all that cosmetic work that I talked to you about, like putting tape, so it's a bit less seamless. Or we can leave it open a bit, but I don't want to leave it open. We'll worry about that when we get like the clay material, and we'll kind of sculpt a little curve here to make it look like an indent. This is like the structural part of it, and I want it to just be structurally sound. I don't want it to fall apart. So yeah, I'm gonna glue that, and the last bit that you'll probably see is, well, I'll come back with it glued on, and then I'll do the cosmetic work to cover up the edge and whatnot. Okay, so I put a bunch of hot glue here on the end, and then I jammed it in there. Now, just so it's doubly secure, I'm going to just inject these ends with hot glue all the way as much as I can, and then I'm gonna tape it in. And just try to make sure that it's in the right position, which I did not do. But hopefully it is, because it's going to be a pain in the butt to fix if it's not. But I'm pretty confident it is in the right position. And just try to get it all the way around, because this is going to, you know, this has to hold all of the weight. Go back, you know, do some more, just let it get in there. Excuse me, I had to sneeze. So get all of the hot glue in there. Do the same thing for the other leg. Excuse me, that was another sneeze. And yeah, just make sure that it's secure and that it's really in there. I really like the way it's coming out. You'll see it in class, it's really cool. Okay, so here it is. It looks great. It stands up great too. It doesn't lay down very well. So, well, needless to say, it's I guess it's a turtle shell, the roundness of the back. So from here on out, you're gonna have to keep it standing up. At this point, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go in and cover up these seams with just some tape and try to get all these areas that were, you know, changed. I'm gonna try to get them down. And that's it. I guess I'll come back for that. There's really no need though. Not much. You won't see much difference in the video. And this is the aesthetic stuff I was talking about. So I will come back, show it to you quickly, and this. Okay. I really do like that dented look here. So after I put tape here, kind of by the crotch area, what I'm doing is I'm just taking something to try to push that down as much as possible. So, you know, like I said, we're gonna really rework it later with the clay epoxy thing. but we want to get as much work as we want done as we can done here. So I kind of cleaned it up all around. I'm gonna leave the back because it's not even that noticeable, and it's nice to see that there is some type of separation. So that pretty much is it. The legs are on. It should stand. This one stands pretty well. And the next part is the arms, and then we're gonna do the clay. But for right now, the legs are done. I'll see you guys in class. And hopefully you're as excited about this as I am, because I think this is turning out great. Better than I expected even. As far as the height of it, you just try to get a reasonable length. You know, this felt right. You're definitely gonna have to use that little extra spike to just be able to jam it in there so it supports the weight. And that's it, guys.